Good afternoon. Welcome to the afternoon in the UK sessions for GSE 2021. And this next session is session 3AD. Remember that for your feedback, or you can use the QR code, of course.
AP. I made a mistake on the chart here. It's 3AP as in Paul.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, 3AP. Oh, okay. Does that mean you've got the wrong QR code as well?
No, I have the right QR code.
Okay. Cheers, Dan. All right. So this session is session 3AP, and you can provide your feedback at the end of the session. This is presented by Dan. I'm just Vigeland. Vigeland? You can correct it in a minute. And its subject is analyze IBM Z operational data alongside your hybrid cloud data for end-to-end observability. Trips off the tongue. Okay. Also this year, of course, we have the two charities that we are supporting. Every pound that you give to either the lifeboats or guide dogs for the blind will entitle you to a GSE raffle ticket, and I am assured they are very good raffle prizes. So please do give generously, not only for the raffle ticket or for the fact that these are very good charities, but also to show your appreciation for the time and effort given by the session presenter. Okay, questions, you can put them in the chat. You are muted. I will unmute everybody at the end, or at least give you the opportunity to unmute yourself. But questions you can put in the chat, and Dan will either answer them during the presentation or at the end, depending on what's most appropriate. Okay, so Dan, over to you.
Okay, thanks so much, Anna. So as she mentioned, my name is Dan Wiggins. I'm a senior product manager at IBM, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about how we integrate IBM Z for observability. And I know there's a few sessions that we have around observability today, or sorry, this week and next week with the conference. And my session is going to cover a certain aspect of observability. I'll kind of talk to what that's going to be here in the future. And colleagues of mine, I believe Aaron Young, and we'll cover some of the other aspects of observability as well, especially what IBM is doing with Instana. As Anna mentioned, if anyone has questions, please go ahead and drop them into the chat. I do have the chat window up in my other monitor, so I can see those come in, and it's I find it's often better to answer kind of those in context as I'm going through, instead of waiting to take all questions at the end. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the presentation. And for many years now, I know a lot of folks have kind of been talking about the digital transformation that had been going on and opening up IBM Z as a platform, and the approach that IBM has taken is it truly is a key part of our hybrid cloud environments. And with that and the demands of users to access their applications 24/7, no longer looking at doing things during normal business hours, has really placed a unique set of challenges for our IT operations environments that help manage those infrastructures. So no longer do we know we have those peak workloads during certain times. We have a number of challenges that we need to go and address. And one of those, as I was starting to allude to, is that user patterns are very different now. We'll see different spikes and things of user behaviors based on kind of what's going on around them in their environments or their specific needs. The next phase is really the explosion of the amount of data. Certain by now, a lot of you have seen the statistics about, a certain percent of the world's data was only generated over the last couple of years, and all of that data makes it impossible for humans to manually go and analyze all of that data, especially if we're looking at doing that in real time. So we need to lean on tools that adopt things like machine learning and analytics platforms, which makes visualizing and accessing that data much more efficient for when things go wrong, especially in the case of trying to diagnose operational issues. And as part of this too, we're all under pressures to always do more with less. So, kind of couple with hands in hand, developing and building this technology to aid the teams that are involved in this day-to-day is really a key focus of what we're trying to do. So there's a key concept that's kind of been driven over the last few years, and the term is observability. And if you look at what IBM defines as observability, it's providing deep visibility into modern distributed applications for faster, automated problem identification and resolution. And this aligns directly with what I just mentioned about some of the challenges that we've had and the result of the digital transformation. So it's all about bringing all sorts of information together to be able to really provide that deep visibility. And we've done this through a variety of things. If we think about the three key pillars that make up observability, there's logs, there's traces, and there's metrics. And if you think about the solutions and tools that have been in the marketplace kind of around this, as this has evolved over the last decade or decade plus, if you think of tools that started off on the log and metric side, so this would be solutions like Splunk or Elasticstack that have really been built around bringing in structured and unstructured log and metric data and trying to provide visualizations and machine learning into that data. Other solutions are things like Sumo Logic and Datadog, and there's a number of those that have been in the market that I know a lot of our clients use. IBM had recently partnered with a solution called Humio, which is another log analysis platform. So those kind of cover the bottom two parts of this triangle. The top part focused on traces is really looking at those end-to-end performance or transactions going from maybe a mobile device all the way down to a mainframe transaction. And if you can think of the solutions that are kind of key in this space, you have your App Dynamics, your Dynatrace have been kind of the two big ones that are out there. IBM recently made an acquisition around Instana as a solution that provides this capability to our clients. And that's kind of where the focus of some of the other sessions that we have on the conference this week. So if we look at, kind of what I'm going to focus on is really the bottom two parts of this and that observability triangle, and looking at logs and metrics. So what's the difference between this kind of data? So logs are granular, time-stamped, complete, and immutable records of application events. So they can be used to create high fidelity, millisecond by millisecond of every event with surrounding context that developers can play back for troubleshooting and debugging purposes. So logs are very valuable. So back when I was developing and writing code within IBM, we always had multiple different kinds of logs. We had our message logs that were kind of things that were always turned on that we generated out to system events that were kind of key things to note and keep an eye on. And then down to the next level that were really kind of developer logs. Really for support purposes, we could do kind of debug trace. And this gets to really low-level things on where we are in the code maybe, or what certain variables are assigned and what their values are at that time. We can certainly see things like stack traces and those kind of things. So all of those are things that might be in logs. And a lot of cases, they have assigned message IDs that might be tied to a product, a specific message identifier, and then if there are information error or warning. So in a lot of cases, the log files and things that we have are pretty well structured in terms of data, but they can really be free-flowing and really an important part of being able to complete a picture as to what's going on within a specific part of an application. Metrics, often called time series metrics, are fundamental measures of an application and system over a given period of time. So typically you can think of these things as KPIs or key performance indicators. So maybe how much memory or CPU an application is using over a period, or how much latency an application is looking at. Looking at IBM Z, it might be the number of transactions that Kix is processing, or the number of active DBATs that DB2 has. So metrics are kind of those key values that we're looking at. So there's a lot of richness in all of this data that kind of builds up this observability. And if you look at kind of where a lot of those solutions that I talked about were going, so I mentioned that Splunk and Elastic kind of started off on this log and metric side. Splunk had an acquisition of SignalFX to build out the trace side of things. So they're going for the full observability. And if you look at the product pages and solution pages for those solutions, they all talk about observability. Similar to what you'll see for some of the traditional APM solutions, AppDynamics or Dynatrace or even IBM Instana, they're picking up the other pieces to round out this triangle and have all of these different pieces. So if you look at this from an IBM Z perspective, we have two different parts to this as well that kind of complete that triangle. And I'm going to cover, like I said, the pieces that we have on the bottom for handling log and metric data. We have another way to do metrics as well, looking at making Omegamon data available as key metrics, and then of course our Z application performance management solution, Connect, that provides a lot of that trace information. So if you listen to Domenico Del Terrio's one of his sessions around AIOps that started off the week, he talked about accelerating our journey to AIOps. And he talked about three phases of where we are in the journey. Detect, which is monitoring our hybrid infrastructure, and applications to detect issues and anomalies. So this is kind of squarely where solutions like the APMs and the transaction tracing comes down, because they'll generate alerts as we're starting to see slowdowns in applications. The next phase is decide, where we analyze issues and anomalies to isolate problems and identify root causes. And this is where a lot of that log and metric data that I talked about really fits into. And then ultimately, once we find the root cause of the issue, we can go and take action on that to reduce impact to our end customers. And we're trying to drive AI and intelligence into every key phase of this. So if we look at this in context of what the key challenge is and what we're trying to do with a lot of the tools and bringing more AI and into these solutions is we have the mean time to detect, so that's that detect phase that I talked about, trying to bring that down to as near real time as possible with using things like machine learning and others. The next is the mean time to identify and the mean time to know. So this is isolating where the problem is occurring and then diagnosing why that's happening. And we're trying to bring that down from a number of hours that it's historically taken, getting down to closer to real time or just a couple of hours to really fully diagnose where a problem is going. So we can ultimately go and fix and provide a long-term resolution to solutions. So this is kind of the overall workflow that we have when addressing operational incidents. So drilling down a little bit more into that decide phase, we really have a core set of capabilities that help in this space. So we have our cross-domain metrics and trace analysis. A lot of this is handled by our monitoring stack solutions. There'll be some sessions over the GSE conference that will focus on this space. There's log analytics. Again, so this is really where this session is going to be corely focused on, is the log analytics space. And this is all about helping to accelerate hybrid incident identification with real-time ops analytics. And we have capabilities around anomaly correlation and looking at very short-term transient events that might be going on and correlating those events so we can identify cause and victim relationships to help accelerate root cause by looking at this problem from a different perspective. And then lastly, performance and capacity analytics. So we're looking at the historical performance of our environments and ensuring that we have the proper capacity to handle our ever-changing workloads. So let's dive into what the solution that we have fits around the log analytics capability. And this is our Z operational log and data analytics. This was first announced in August of this past year and made available in September. So for folks that are familiar with some of the previous IBM solutions, this is all based on a lot of the capability that we had within Z Common Data Provider and Z Operations Analytics, but enhanced and moved forward to really focus on kind of this core log analytics space and helping drive and complete that overall observability picture. So there's a couple of key capabilities that we have within the solution. The first one is advanced data streaming. And we can't do any kind of analytics or provide any kind of observability, get access to logs or metric data without having access to data. And we have a solution that's part of this that helps us gain near real-time access to Z operational data and make it available to where you want to run your analytics. So this all helps complete what we have kind of on the bottom part of this chart, where we can help build out an AIOps ecosystem. And a lot of the clients that I talk to, they have different parts of their business that have very different needs for different data. So maybe their security operations center is using the Splunk SIM, and they want to get some of the data from Z into their SIM. But we have a DevOps group over here that's using the Elastic Stack and Kibana to build out their and look at their application stack. So maybe we need to send our ZOS Connect records, SMF data over to that team so they can kind of monitor the health of their overall application. So a lot of different data needs that really provides a big ecosystem that we have, both requirements on IBM Z and on platform, but also integrating out across all of our enterprises. Within the solution, we do provide what we've called our Z Data Analytics platform. This is where we can have and deliver that true log analytics experience by bringing together both log and metric data to provide visualizations and the ability to quickly and rapidly search across all of that structured and unstructured data. And to do that, we provide a set of dashboards and searches that are pre-built based on IBM best practices that help accelerate our customers' ability to go and do that. And we deliver those on Splunk and Elastic Stack today, which is what our Z Data Analytics platform is currently based on. Let's dive into some of these key capabilities in a little bit more detail and start with kind of the architecture view of where some of these pieces sit and where they run. So there's a couple of key components that we have. So on the left is our core that's running is our Z Common Data Provider. As I mentioned, this is what's driving and providing all of the data that we need. So it provides a wide variety of SMF and log data and makes that data available to one or more analytics platforms. So it could be the Z Data Analytics platform that's running on Linux on Z or x86 Linux. We do plan to add support for ZCX for that platform sometime in the near future. So I would say sometime in the beginning part of first half of next year, we'll see support for ZCX as we start seeing more and more adoption of that across the Z platform. We can also integrate with our customers' own enterprise environment. So looking at Splunk Enterprise and Elastic Stack that are customer or client provided across the enterprise. All of our pre-built dashboards can be delivered on top of those two platforms. We also have a number of other subscribers that I'll talk to here in a couple of charts. On top of that, we have our problem insight server. So this is starting to look at some of that automated intelligence into the data. So we have a number of messages, rules that we're looking at that as this log or log data is being ingested into the platforms, we're looking at that log data in an unattended fashion to highlight things that might be of interest to our operations teams. So that's all available within our problem insight server, which if you listen to the presentation that I had done on Tuesday when I talked about our anomaly detection capabilities, it's a shared component that bubbles up the most critical events to our operations teams. That will run on ZOS, on USS, on Linux on Z, or on x86 Linux. And again, we have plans to support that on ZCX in the future. So these are kind of the high-level components that I'll refer to as I'm continuing to go through the presentation today. So let's start with the data streaming, and this has been driven by our Z Common data provider, and this is what allows our clients to access operational data in near real time. And the reason I say near real time is there's always a little bit of lag for, as data is getting summarized or when it's available on the user exits or in-memory buffer or log streams for where we can take it. But as soon as we can grab that data, we're able to go and collect that data. We collect it once and then stream it to one or more analytics targets. So if we need to take security and maybe rack up 80 records and stream those out to, say, Splunk and our local Z Data Analytics platform, we'll collect it once and stream it to both of those places. We have the largest breadth of data that is supported for a single solution to be able to collect and stream data. We support all of the standard IBM SMF types. We also support some third-party SMF types, especially in the security space. So thinking of things like CA Top Secret or ACF2. The solution supports a number of IMS log data, decollect data, RMF3, and multiple different log types that we can collect and stream. So again, in looking at observability and getting access to the data, this is really the core building block of providing that information up to those solutions and platforms. Now, one of the key benefits of Common Data Provider is if there's an SMF type that we don't support. And I've seen this for some clients running kind of legacy tools that generated SMF data, or maybe a third-party solution that we don't have support for. We can go and configure Common Data Provider to be able to read and parse and stream those SMF records. Another key benefit is that it gives you full control over your data through filtering. So I know in a lot of cases there's concerns about data volumes or data privacy and not taking sensitive data off of the platform. So we have a number of filtering options that let us manage that data. So we have our field level filtering, which lets us take a SMF record that might have hundreds of fields and condense that down to the 20 or 30 or so that we need to drive whatever data integration that is, and send just the most valuable information out to a platform. It also lets us take out any information that might be sensitive or we don't want to send off a platform for some reason. Field level filtering will, really give us that benefit of just getting the right data to the right place. We also do have the notion of record level filtering. So this is filtering based on the contents of what that data is. One of the best use cases that I've seen was when we actually built this with one of our clients. They were a pretty large bank here in the southeast of the U.S. Where I'm based, and they had a key business application, one of their key banking applications that was mobile driven, and they didn't want to send every KIX 110 transaction record that matched that application into their Splunk environment, because sending all of that data, searches start to become slow. It's an awful lot of data to consume, especially when Splunk was historically been priced based on the amount of data that's ingested into the platform. So what we allowed, or what we worked with this client to help do is they wanted to provide a filter that says, let me look for data that has the prefix of the key KIX transaction that I want, but I only want to send records, the 110 records that indicated that transaction was long running, so ran longer than 2 seconds, or ended in append to my Splunk environment. So they were almost treating it like an event model. So, hey, we saw this transaction long run or fail, we'll send this 110 record up to our Splunk environments. They can also kind of keep that as almost like an event driver in that case. That was an interesting use case that we saw out of this record level filtering. So there's a number of different use cases that we can see there. And then lastly, the key thing that I want to mention is a little bit about performance. And we've really built the solution to perform. So I know in collecting and streaming data, there's always a concern about how much overhead will this provide to my environment. So we've been continually working on enhancing the performance of the solution, and as of some time ago, probably a couple of years ago, 100% of the runtime components were eligible to run on zip. And we've continually been pushing the amount of zippability of each of the components over time, and I'll show you some of the significant results that we've achieved with one of the components of Common Data Provider. So just kind of looking at the picture of where we can send data to and how a lot of this works. And this will allow me to talk a little bit about the history of the solution and how it's becoming core to a lot of what we're doing across the broader set of IBM solutions. So historically, it started off with just streaming SMF and log data. We had a streaming API where clients could write to that API if they had a custom application and they wanted to use the streaming infrastructure to get that data out to one of the supported platforms. But quickly over time, as more and more of our clients adopted platforms like Splunk and Elasticstack, their needs for data from different components started to grow, especially as the IBM Z teams using those platforms started to grow as well. So now we support data from a number of the IBM solution stack flowing through Common Data Provider. So Z Performance Capacity Analytics. They can stream their curated data built for looking at performance capacity planning to drive their Elastic and Splunk dashboards that they provide. ZOS Connect was a very important one in looking at the health of the API economy. And I have an example of that in the presentation here of what we can do with that a little bit later. IMS Connect extensions, another one to look at that. And then NetView and Workload Scheduler making their logs available through Common Data Provider to be able to be integrated into some of those target consumers. So again, looking at more and expanding out that observability paradigm. And this list is growing and will continue to do so, especially as we start to look at things like Omega Mons and other things starting to bring their data through Common Data Provider. Now, just as the number of integrated components has started to grow, so has the target consumers. So initially, it was Common Data Provider was built when it was first developed 6 or 7 years ago, was really to feed data to the IBM log analytics platform. And quickly over time, we added support for Elastic and Splunk. Elastic has certainly been a great partner, or Splunk has been a great partner of ours. We have a very highly optimized way to get data into that platform. This past year, we've added support for streaming directly to Kafka and Humio. So Humio is, again, a log analytics platform that the IBM Cloud Group has partnered with, Kafka being a key data and event integration solution that's based on open source. In fact, we're doing a lot more with Kafka along the solution stack just due to its scalability that we have. So things like Netflix built their entire data pipeline around Kafka. We can also support a number of other solutions by sending data to Logstash. So things like Sumo Logic and Hadoop and Datadog was another one that I think I just looked at the other day that has a Logstash plugin. So a lot of different ways that we can get data to key applications through common data providers. So again, it's that collect once and send out to multiple locations. So looking at some of the zip savings, so there's really three key components that we have within Common Data Provider today. We have our system data engine, which is responsible for collecting and processing SMF data. We have our log forwarder, which goes and collects all of the different log data, and then our data streamer, which takes input from both of those and streams data out to the multiple targets. And the savings that I'm showing here were for our system data engine component, where 99.79% of that workload was eligible to run on zip. So a very significant achievement that we had within the team, and this has provided a number of our clients with significant benefits so they can collect large amounts of data with very little impact to the general CPUs on their systems. And in this case, we did the testing with looking at around 300 gigabytes of data, reading data from an in-memory buffer, and that was really kind of one of the keys that we had in looking at getting some of these results. So, different configurations will always show and have different results, but it is possible to achieve this kind of result with the data collection and streaming solution. So next I want to talk about the included data analytics platform. So for our clients that don't want to integrate or have a use case to keep a set of data on Z, we do provide a Z data analytics platform, and this is based on open source, Elastic, and OpenSearch that ingests all of the Z operational data that I just mentioned. So it can run on Linux on Z, it can run on, if we wanted to, it can run on x86 Linux, and in the future, ZCX. And we have a number of pre-built dashboards and content that I'll start to get into in the next couple of slides that will help provide insight into DB2 and Kix and ZOS Connect, and we're expanding out the content that we have on the platform. It's quite a modern UI, so much better than the one that had previously been part of our Z Operations Analytics solution that we're migrating our customers to our new Z Data Analytics platform. Being that it is Elastic-based and Kibana, it's very easy to go out and get skills in that platform, so we can go out and either drop in the content that we provide out of the box. That's kind of some of the IBM best practice that we've developed with some of our clients, and take and modify those and build a lot of interesting things I've seen a number of our clients go and do. It is containerized and container-based, so it's a very easy deployment to get up and running with the Z Data Analytics platform. That's also what's going to allow us to, in the near future, run on ZCX. So next we'll start talking about some of the things that we're doing around how we're making that data more usable, especially if we start talking about looking at hybrid applications and observability. A lot of folks that are looking at and trying to understand Z operational data, we need to make it in a much more consumable manner, and this is where we start to get into the notion of curated data. And this is where we start to build insight into the raw SMF operational data by starting to look at providing new key KPIs and information from that raw SMF. So think of the case where we might have a CPU utilization field or transaction time that's spread across multiple fields within an SMF record. So instead of just sending the raw SMF record, we can send the curated definition that would go and do those pre-calculations and put those into a new field that we can go and use and send just that KPI instead of span of records. So trying to make the data much more usable by the time it gets out to its target consumer. And kind of going through some of this, we had received very positive feedback from one of our clients. So once we get that data out to one of our platforms, we can start to look to visualize that data. And this is a couple of examples of some of the dashboards that we provide. These happen to be screen captures from Splunk. The same visualizations will apply and be visible in Kibana as well. That's part of the Elastic Stack. So in looking at kicks, we can start with our enterprise dashboard and look at the overall health of our kicks from an enterprise standpoint. So we can look at how things are going on within the systems and regions, the total CPU that those are using. And then we can start to drill down into those. So we can pick one of the systems and drill down and go and look at all of the different regions within that system. So are we seeing ABENs? What's our CPU time within that region? And then take it a step further and drill down into that region and then start taking a look at all the transactions that make up that kicks region. So what are the different transaction counts and ABEN counts that are part of that? What are the transaction CPU times? Are we starting to see any short on storage messages? And then go down and look at the transaction level details. So how is this transaction performing within CICS? At any time we can go and just easily go in and filter into the top. That's kind of what the drill down is helping us do is filter on and update the queries for the visualization of this data. But we can always go in and quickly, we know exactly what we're looking for. So if we're trying to get down to see a root cause of something and we know that this kicks transaction is failing, we can go in and go directly to whatever that transaction detail is. So an easy way to get down to critical information within a system. So similarly for kicks, we have the same kind of thing for DB2. So again, looking out at the enterprise level, the system CPU, and then drilling down into the system and then subsystem dashboard all the way down and looking at the different thread transactions and CPUs and what are our I/O weights. And it's interesting when we can start to correlate this data across an entire hybrid application, that if we know this DB2 subsystem is related to this kicks transaction, we can take that information and put it together on the same dashboard and start to see some of those cause and effect relationships. So if we're starting to try to understand root cause of operational issues just based on the metric data that we're collecting, we can kind of start to see some of those things take place and take hold. In terms of z/OS Connect, this has been very popular with a number of our clients that have adopted the z/OS Connect solution, especially in those that have embraced DevOps. So we can start looking at the overall health of our API economy. So we can see, how often our APIs are being accessed. We can see the data rates, error counts, elapsed time. This also gives us a little bit of insight potentially into user patterns. So if it's an API that's being called because of a mobile banking application, we can start to see and understand how users and what their behaviors are starting to look like. So are they accessing it from 9 to 5, what we would normally see from a core banking application, or are we seeing users start to have those valleys during those times because they're at their work days and they're starting to do things more at the mornings before their workday starts or in the evenings? What are some of the user patterns that we can glean out of looking at just kind of this API economy? And we can always go down and have the different looks into this. So we're looking at this from the service perspective or actually the request URI. So a lot of different information that we can see coming from one of the key entry points in how we start to look at bringing Z to be part of a true hybrid application. So I mentioned another key use case is looking at log data within the system. And one of the key tenets of observability is log data. So we do have a number of quick searches that we've built and defined to help us take a look and quickly isolate problems. And these have all been developed with the IBM team from the Washington System Center and some of our experts that help our clients out into the field to get to what are some of the most important things that we might want to go and see. So we do have messages that we're looking for, specific messages, again, that get surfaced through the problem insight server. But we do have the ability to go in and quickly search through the log data that's coming in. So we can go and look at, are we seeing kick short on storage messages? Are we seeing pull shortage messages from DB2? Or are there things that are coming from TCP/IP errors, or anything that we're seeing from security? We have a wide variety of messages that really help us go down and look for messages that are indicative of things that might be happening on the system. So if we have a high-level overview of what we're seeing, we can go and drill in and see what could possibly be going on within the system by quickly going and searching through the messages, and we'll get a simple set of results that come from this. So again, just kind of closing on getting down to some of the observability. We do have our Z data analytics platform that I mentioned. This is Kibana-based UI, since it is based on Elasticstack and OpenSearch. I know everyone is loving the dark mode now that we see in a lot of dashboards and content, so that's what we've enabled out of the box within this solution. And again, this can run on Z and help our Z operations teams visualize the overall health of their application based on SMF metric data, quickly go through and search application logs through their pre-built searches, or define your own as you're going along as well, and save and enhance the set that's already there. Or we can integrate into our enterprise Splunk or Elasticstacks and see the same kind of data and visualizations. Or, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, what a large number of our clients are doing is kind of going through this hybrid approach where they're using the data analytics platform on Z for their own internal purposes, but also expanding the use out to the groups and solutions across the enterprise. So this really helps us adapt to all of the use cases that our clients are looking for. So I wanted to leave with a quick customer success story. One of our great customers, Office IT, has leveraged the solution to integrate with their Splunk environments, and a lot of the key value they get out of this, and this is true for a number of our clients, is for folks that worked in the cloud space or distributed space, Z is really kind of that mysterious black box that no one fully understands. And I will have to admit, I was a bit guilty of this myself when I worked on in development on the IBM cloud side of the business before I moved over to IBM Z. But the value they get out of this is that it simplifies the mainframe, so they can make more sense into the data. So they can start to see, in real time what's going on in the end-to-end system that includes IBM Z, and it's not as segregated from the rest of the environment as it is. We're starting to break down some of those silos. We can really start to get a lot of value out of the data that's been sitting on IBM Z and bring that into a number of solutions. So Drazen was a great person to work with when we went out and built this case study on one of the successes that they had. So the link is here in the charts if you'd like to go and read that at some point. So just to quickly summarize before I get down to final questions. So Z Operational Log and Data Analytics is one of our solutions that helps with the full observability picture. It helps us get access to the operational data and make it available to where we want to run analytics. So again, that's all of the different log data that's on the platform and metric data coming from SMF. Again, we'll cover metric data that might be coming from some of the Omega Mons in some of the different sessions, as well as the trace data that's coming from our ZAPM Connect solution to complete that overall observability picture. It helps us get down to the root cause of incidents by looking at this data, and we have a number of pre-built dashboards and searches that really kind of help accelerate that process. Just to leave a couple of links for additional information, you can go out and read the announcement. Again, I mentioned that these are relatively new solutions that have been derived from technology that we've had for a while now. So the announcement was done in August of this year. Go out and take a look at the product page, and then there's the link to the IBM AI Ops on Z community. There's a lot of great material there around blogs and a lot of the different capabilities that we have. So I'll take over and ask for Anna to say, please go through and give feedback on the sessions. This really helps us understand, things that I could do better, or the value of the session. If there's things that we would want to go a little bit deeper on, hopefully it's provided a good overview on how we can start to integrate some of the Z log and metric data to start to complete that observability picture. And I'll let Anna go and cover the membership slide for GSE.
Okay, so yep, thank you very much for your attendance. This was session 3AP for your conference feedback. Please make sure you do that. Also understand that the answer to the question about the length of the session is not 9, because that I'm sorry, I've got a phone call which I need to take. Oh, it's all right, too late, I lost it. Okay. So yeah, so please look at the question about length, because if you just answer that with a 9, that just says that the session was too long. 5 is the optimum answer for that question, so please do be careful of that. There were no questions, and also if you can remember to fill in your to give generously to the charities. Okay, so thank you. There is some benefit of being a member of the GSE, especially when we have the face-to-face conferences. Yeah, so I just remains for me to say thank you to Dan, and a round of applause, and thank you, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Anna. And I didn't see any questions in the chat.
No, neither did I. So that's fine.
Okay, so I think we can wrap up for the session today then.
Yep. Okay, I'll see you again.
Okay, thanks, Anna. Have a good rest of your week.
Yep, you too. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.